Karachi, Pakistan. A bustling metropolis teeming with life. A city where the old and new coexist in a chaotic yet harmonious dance. The streets are alive with the sounds of vendors, the honking of cars, and the chatter of people going about their daily lives. But nestled within its concrete jungle lies a chilling secret, a dark corner that many avoid and few dare to speak of openly. The Karsaz Haunted House. This imposing mansion, perched on the edge of the bustling Karsaz Road, has been shrouded in mystery and fear for decades. Its presence is a stark contrast to the vibrant life that surrounds it, a silent sentinel of a bygone era. Locals whisper tales of eerie occurrences, unexplained noises, and chilling apparitions. Stories of ghostly figures seen in the windows, strange lights flickering in the dead of night, and the feeling of being watched have become part of the local folklore. The house stands as a stark reminder of a troubled past. Its history is a tapestry of tragedy and sorrow, woven with threads of despair and loss. Many believe that the spirits of those who once lived there still linger, unable to find peace. Its once grand facade is now crumbling, windows boarded up like vacant eyes staring out onto the street. The overgrown yard, with its tangled weeds and decaying trees, adds to the sense of abandonment and neglect. The air around it hangs heavy with an oppressive silence, a silence that speaks volumes about the horrors that transpired within its walls. It's as if the very atmosphere is charged with the energy of the past, a lingering echo of the pain and suffering that once filled the house. This is not just a haunted house. It's a portal to the other side, a place where the veil between our world and the spectral realm is thin. Those who have ventured inside speak of a palpable sense of dread, a feeling that they are not alone. It's a location that has beckoned paranormal investigators from around the globe, drawn to its sinister energy. Equipped with cameras, recording devices, and other tools of the trade, they seek to capture evidence of the supernatural. Some have reported strange phenomena, from inexplicable cold spots to disembodied voices. But few have dared to stay long enough to uncover the truth behind the Karsaz house's dark legacy. The fear of what lies within is too great, the risk too high. And so, the mansion remains, a silent witness to the passage of time, its secrets locked away, waiting for the day when someone brave enough will finally unravel its mysteries. Our story begins in the 1980s, when the Ahmed family, oblivious to the house's sinister reputation, made it their home. The mansion, with its grand facade and sprawling gardens, seemed like the perfect place for a fresh start. Little did they know, the house held secrets that would soon unravel their lives. The family, consisting of Mr. and Mrs. Ahmed, their teenage daughter Zara, and young son Asim, were initially captivated by the mansion's spacious rooms and vintage charm. The high ceilings, ornate woodwork, and antique fixtures spoke of a bygone era, filling them with a sense of wonder and excitement. They envisioned countless happy memories to be made within those walls. Despite the neighbors' warnings about the house's dark past, the Ahmeds dismissed the stories as mere neighborhood gossip. They laughed off the tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena, confident that such things were the stuff of fiction. After all, they were a modern family, grounded in reality. But their idyllic life soon took a dark turn. The atmosphere in the house began to change, almost imperceptibly at first. Dark clouds seemed to gather over the mansion, casting long shadows that crept into their lives. The once warm and inviting home started to feel cold and unwelcoming. Zara, the teenage daughter, was the first to notice the strange occurrences. It started with small things, objects not being where she left them, a fleeting chill in the air. She tried to brush it off, attributing it to her imagination. But the incidents grew more frequent and harder to ignore. She would hear whispers in the dead of night, soft and unintelligible, yet unmistakably real. The whispers seemed to come from the walls themselves, filling her with a sense of dread. Disembodied footsteps echoed down the long, empty corridors, as if someone, or something, was walking just out of sight. Cold spots plagued certain areas of the house, sending chills down her spine. These icy patches would appear without warning, making her breath visible in the air. Zara felt as though she was being watched, an unseen presence lurking just beyond her vision. As the days turned into weeks, the paranormal activity escalated. Objects moved mysteriously, sliding across tables or falling off shelves with no apparent cause. The family began to feel as though they were living in a house with a mind of its own, one that was growing increasingly hostile. Doors slammed shut with unnatural force, often trapping family members in rooms or cutting off their escape routes. The sound of a door slamming echoed through the house like a gunshot, startling them out of their sleep and leaving them on edge. Shadows seemed to dance at the edge of their vision, flickering and shifting in ways that defied explanation. These shadows took on forms that were almost human, yet distorted and grotesque. The family could no longer deny that something was terribly wrong. The family was living in a constant state of unease, their once happy home transformed into a prison of fear. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind, sent their hearts racing. The mansion that had once promised a new beginning had become a nightmare from which they could not wake. One evening, Zara's older sister Sarah came to visit. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, a sense of foreboding that seemed to cling to the walls of the house. Sarah, unaware of the recent strange occurrences, was eager to catch up with her sister and spend some quality time together. Sitting alone in the living room, she felt a cold presence engulf her. The room, which had been warm and inviting just moments before, now felt like a tomb. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist, creating shapes that danced at the edge of her vision. As she turned towards the source of the chill, she came face to face with a horrifying sight. A tall, gaunt figure draped in white. Its presence was overwhelming, filling the room with an oppressive silence that seemed to swallow all sound. The figure had no face, just a smooth, blank expanse where its features should have been. It was as if someone had erased its identity, leaving behind an empty shell that radiated malevolence. Sarah was paralyzed with fear, unable to scream as the faceless entity glided closer. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible sight before her. She wanted to run, to escape, but her body refused to obey. Just as suddenly as it appeared, the apparition vanished, leaving Sarah in a state of utter terror. She collapsed onto the couch, her heart pounding in her chest, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The room was silent once more, but the memory of the faceless figure lingered, etched into her mind. Meanwhile, young Asim's health began to deteriorate rapidly. He had always been a lively child, full of energy and curiosity, but now he was a shadow of his former self. His once bright eyes were dull, and his laughter had been replaced by a constant, low-grade fear. He grew withdrawn and listless, complaining of nightmares and a constant feeling of being watched. Every night he would wake up screaming, his small body trembling with fear. He spoke of dark figures that lurked in the corners of his room, watching him with unseen eyes. Doctors were baffled, unable to find any medical explanation for his declining health. They ran countless tests, searching for any clue that might explain his symptoms, but every result came back normal. It was as if his very life force was being drained away by an unseen hand. The family was falling apart, their once strong bonds strained to the breaking point by the unrelenting fear and dread that permeated their home. Zara and her husband argued constantly, their voices rising in frustration and despair. The love and warmth that had once filled their home was now replaced by a cold, creeping dread that seemed to seep into every corner of their lives. They were desperate for answers, for any way to save their son and reclaim their lives from the darkness that had taken hold. One fateful night, the supernatural activity reached a terrifying crescendo. Asim's screams pierced the night, drawing his family to his room. They found him thrashing wildly in his bed, his eyes wide with terror. He was mumbling incoherently about shadowy figures and cold, grasping hands. As the family watched in horror, Asim let out a final, ear-splitting shriek and went limp. He was gone. The family was devastated. Grief mingled with the overwhelming terror that had haunted them for months. They knew they could no longer stay in the house. That very night, they packed their belongings and fled, leaving behind the horrors of the Karsaz house. The grand mansion that had promised so much happiness had instead delivered a lifetime of pain and sorrow. As word of the Ahmed family's terrifying ordeal spread, whispers of the Karsaz house's dark history resurfaced. Locals recounted tales of a British officer, Major William Grayson, who had lived in the mansion during the waning years of the British Raj. Grayson, a man known for his ruthlessness, had met a gruesome end within the mansion's walls. He was found brutally murdered in his study, his body mutilated beyond recognition. The culprit was never found, and the case remained unsolved, adding another layer of mystery to the house's sinister reputation. Some whispered that Grayson's spirit, driven by rage and a thirst for vengeance, still haunted the mansion, seeking retribution for his untimely demise. His presence, they claimed, was the source of the chilling apparitions and the malevolent energy that permeated the very foundation of the Karsaz house.